Hello and welcome to another scrapbooking process video. Today I'm using the hip kit from August. There's a link in the information section below to that website where you can pick up your own hip kit if you'd like to get one. First, I am starting by trimming down some of these photos. I'm using my Creative Memories trimmer to do this, and these are all printed at you know what, I think they're 3.8 by 3.8 by looking at them. I think in the information section I call them 3.5 by 3.5, but that's an error. Now you might notice that there I go, just looking through the kit. The color and lighting on this video is different than some of my other videos. It might be a little bit too much. I'm tweaking both my camera and my Final Cut Pro settings because I've lost some of my settings a while ago, and I've been meaning to get around to kind of experimenting, I guess, with the output because my output has been rather bland and dark. And that's just because I did something on my camera and I had it all figured out and then I lost it. And so now I'm trying to figure it out again. I don't know if this is right. I think that the white balance is right, and but the contrast is a little high on this. I don't know. We'll see. I might do a couple like this and then tweak it again and just kind of try to figure it out in the coming weeks. So I've decided to re-scrap this carousel photo. I was going to scrap some different carousel photos, but I love this photo so much that I just wanted to scrap it again. So I'm scrapping it again. There's no right or wrong in scrapbooking. You can scrap a whole new picture or you can re-scrap pictures if you want. I'm thinking about how I'm going to mat this photo. I definitely want that mint polka dotted paper with the black and white border around it. And I thought about maybe using a pattern paper to mat this photo, but then I decided to use this scrap of black from another layout that I did recently. And one of the benefits of using the same sized photos in multiple layouts is that your scraps become more predictable and easy to use, especially scraps that you use for matting your photos like black and white. I often have scraps of black and white laying around, and they're usually exactly the right width for the photo that I use, as long as I'm usually using the same photos. Now get a load of these rose gold scissors. My friend Stephanie picked these up for me at Winners, and she also picked up the gold ones for me at Winners as well several months ago. And I love those scissors so much. They work really well, but they're just so beautiful. I just love using them. So now I have two pairs of fancy scissors and I just love them. They make me very happy. So I forgot to take the manufacturer's strip off of this before I cut out the center. And while I have my trimmer out, I will also trim this paper down to 11.5 by 11.5. And I just took two adjacent sides instead of trimming some off of each edge. Where it is a pattern, it's those polka dots are interrupted on two of the sides, and then they're not interrupted on the other two, like the manufacturer's strip sides, like the sides that were manufacturer cut is what I'm trying to say. So if that was something that will really bother you, then you might want to take 1/4 of an inch off all four sides instead of 1/2 inch off two adjacent sides like I just did. Now we have a little interlude where Lila it kind of keeps me distracted. And also my friend Stephanie is here over to my right while I'm scrapbooking as well. So I'm a little distracted for this one. But what I decided to do, I took a look at it before I started narrating just to see if I needed to edit anything out. And what I decided to do was to just leave the spots where I'm chatting and leave them in because that'll just give me more time to talk a little bit about the scrapbooking and the principles that I'm using and so on. So right now, my cat is loving these stickers, and I'm trying to get her to do that again so I can take a picture of her, but of course she won't. Cats will never do the thing again. If you miss it, you're out of luck. So I'm just looking for embellishments that I think might work with this page. I really love that wood grain frame that came in the hip kit, exclusive die cuts that came in this kit. And then I really love this ticket girl, the girl in the ticket booth. I just adore that embellishment. And so I'm going to try to use that. I'm picking out anything that might be carousel themed here. So I've got that zebra on a carousel post, and then I've got another large picture of a full carousel. the ticket booth girl, a couple of frames, and I'm thinking that whatever I scrapbook is sort of going to be on this gray and white background. This gray and white background gives me a nice neutral, non-distracting background upon which I can layer a few more interesting things. And so I'm just going to pop this up because I wanted to cast a little bit of a shadow, and here comes Lila. She's rather distracting tonight, but that's okay. So I'm going to pop that up so that it'll cast a little bit of a shadow, and that just adds a little bit of differentiation between that die cut and the background upon which it sits, because the background upon which it sits isn't all that different from, it's light and the ticket booth is also light. So even though they're distinctly different, I just wanted to accentuate that difference by adding a little bit of a gray shadow around the edges of that. There goes Lila. I think I kicked her out of the room at this point. I just locked the door. And this is the center that I cut out of the black and white striped paper. And I adore this floral pattern. There aren't too many formal, fancy florals that I like, but I love these ones that have a real vintage look to them. This looks like something from the 60s to me, like a pillow from the 60s. It's so pretty. I love it. I really love a black and white striped paper, and so I'm going to use, just to add a little bit more emphasis between these layers, I'm just going to add that little strip of black and white paper above and below the gray and white pattern. I didn't put it on quite evenly, so I thought about pulling it off and repositioning it, and then I decided to just trim it down. And there we go. So I like how this is looking. I'm going to trim that down with my ruler, and using my ruler instead of scissors just gives me a nice soft torn look to the edges of my photos. I wanted to add a little something of interest and dimension and texture to this tickets die cut piece, so adding those buttons will do the trick. I like how those look there. Actually, they add nice contrast and emphasis to that ticket booth. And now I want to play around with the placement of this bow. That's the word I'm looking for. Bow, the black and white bow from Maggie Holmes. And most of the papers that I'm using here are from the Maggie Holmes Carousel collection. And then I remembered this is my favorite piece on this whole sheet of chipboard, and I must use it. Of course, there's no musts in scrapbooking, but if ever there were a must, it would be right now. I must use that carousel. So that poses a problem because I've been designing this mostly around the ticket booth. And so those two things are awfully similar, and I'm not sure I'm liking the look of both of them together. No. They're really too similar, so that poses a problem for me. I really want to use the ticket booth, but I also really must use that carousel piece of chipboard. So I'm going to look at it like this, and Stephanie's saying, I like it better with the carousel, and I'm saying, I like it better with the ticket booth. And then I thought, you know what, Stephanie, she's been scrapbooking longer than me, so I'm going to listen to Stephanie, and I'm going to use the carousel instead of the ticket booth. But I'm going to leave the ticket booth up there because in the back of my head, I know I have more than one photo from Upper Clements Park, which is the amusement park we were at. It's kind of like a vintage, old-timey amusement park. It's not a big over-the-top one. It has one roller coaster. It's a wooden roller coaster. Yeah, old-timey is a good descriptor for Upper Clements Park. So anyhow, I do have more photos, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to be able to use that photo booth on another layout. So I'm just going to figure out how I can use this carousel now. So I'm going back to my original idea of using that wood veneer as a bit of a frame for the carousel. I like that wood veneer frame as a background for the carousel because it doesn't introduce too much contrast. I'm kind of strategically using contrast in this page because I'm using so many soft elements, like the background of gray and white, that it's not really the background, but that piece of paper that is gray and white is very soft, and the mint green background is quite soft, and then I've got this punch of the yellow and bluish, I guess, floral, and then all of these punches of black and white. And I'm trying to be deliberate about where I use contrast and where I use a more subtle kind of a pattern. I just grabbed the little foam adhesive that came on that bow and added it to the back of it so that it would be stuck to the carousel. The carousel is on wax paper, which allows me to audition it in various places. And so I really like that. And I'm going to put Fun, which is also, it's from the puffy stickers from Maggie Holmes. I'm going to use that as my title, and I'm putting it right so that the little loopy thing that comes off of the word F, I think there's a name for those things. It's kind of going right in, it's nestled into one of the little indents in the carousel, like between the horse's leg and his chin. So now I have my little half-size Kenmore sewing machine, which seems to be, I can't get the bobbin tension fixed on it. I know how to do it. I just have to go get some screwdrivers and open the bottom of my machine and turn a little screw and it'll fix it. But then part of the reason that wouldn't be all that hard to do, but then I know that it'll gradually loosen over the next couple of times that I use it, and it'll be just like this again. So that's what prevents me from actually fixing this. Anyhow, see how it rounds the corners instead of doing nice crisp corners? That's the problem that I'm talking about. That would be fixed with a screwdriver, and I know how to do it, but I'll do it soon, I promise, and then my pages will look nicer. I'm using sewing here for two reasons. First, I want to define my patterns from one another. So this gray and white paper, for example, is very, very soft and subtle. And by adding the black and white striped paper on either side of it and the black stitching, it just helps it to hold up against this really vivid pattern that I'm about to sew right now. So the sewing helps that gray and white paper stand out and differentiate itself from just being a blob of nothing. And the second thing that the stitching does is it helps to tie these really disparate kinds of patterns together because they are really different from one another. And I want to make sure that this page has a nice cohesive look to it. And the black stitching is what I'm doing instead of outlining at this point. You'll notice that I don't outline nearly as often. I tend to just grab my sewing machine and go around the edges of my papers instead of outlining. And that's kind of like, it gives me the same look as outlining, but it adds some texture as well. So I really like that. For now, I tend to go through phases, and for now I'm sewing instead of outlining, and that's my phase. So I'm going to edit out some of this footage because I keep stopping my sewing machine so that I can talk to Stephanie. But basically I'm doing the same thing. I'm sewing around the outside edge of this mint green polka dotted paper. It gives it a little bit more definition. And it also helps tie this background paper in with the papers of the layout itself, the layered papers. So now I'm finished that. I'm just going to trim it up, and somehow along the way I switched from my rose gold scissors to my gold scissors. And now I'm going to put all those back the way that I had them, I hope. And I can't quite remember if I took a photo and if I'm referring to the photo to put these back together or if I'm just using my memory, but it wasn't all that complicated, so it's okay. I often will use just snap a photo of my page before I separate everything out to either outline or sew or do whatever I need to do to it. I'm not sure if I did this time or not. So here is the basic structure of the page. This is the way it's going to look. After I get everything glued down in place, I will be able to start embellishing. So you'll notice that I didn't glue down the right-hand side of that photo because I knew I was going to stick the frame in there. So I just glued the frame to the gray paper, and now finally peel that wax paper away from the carousel and stick it on. I like it overlapping with the photo. I find when I overlap things with the photo, it helps everything feel like it's tied together and like it belongs. So as I do this, I'm just thinking about what kind of embellishing I'd like to do, and I feel like this layout doesn't really need a whole lot of embellishing. I am having a look through my embellishments. I have these stickers, I have the wood buttons with the epoxy stickers inside that came in the kit. Everything that I'm using here is from the kit. That's the August hip kit. And I'm going to do my journaling right on this gray paper. I'm using, see how I've lined up the chunk of gray paper with the black and white stripes on it. I've lined that up with my grid mat, and then I'm just using my ruler, and I'm lining my ruler up with the grid mat as well, so that I can make sure that my lines are relatively straight. They don't have to be perfect, but I want them to be not too distractingly imperfect. And so that's where my journaling is going to be. And at this point, I'm not too sure what my journaling will say, but I know where it's going to live. I have already scrapbooked this photo, so I don't have a whole lot to say about it that's unique or earth-shattering, but I do want to make sure that I say a little something about it, because these two pages might end up getting separated. Like if I ever go through, for now, all of my albums are just a mishmash of layouts that I made in the order in which I made them. But at some point I might go back and change my album around, change my albums around, so that maybe like I might pick out one to give to one kid, or who knows what I'm going to do. But so because of that, I would like this to be a standalone layout in case I decide to do something with it. So you saw me just add those two banners. I was going to add one, and then it seemed like it just wasn't standing up to some of the other things on the page that just grab your attention, especially that big black and white bow. So I added two just to add a little bit of extra emphasis there. And then I really like that tag chipboard piece, but it was a little bit too light. And again, it's the things that I add have to stand up to that big black and white bow that really does add so much emphasis. So I layered it with another one of the chipboard pieces that says "Hello, Love." And I just layered it in the center, and I like how that looks. It does give it quite a lot of dimension as well, so it makes it stand out from the page when you layer chipboard on chipboard like that. I'm going to put it right above the banners and see where the ties are on the banners. You're going to see me in a second really struggle with where to put that so that it looks natural. I kind of want to layer the bows over top of that, but it's not going to work because the chipboard is so thick. And watch me, I'm going to think about pulling up. I'm talking while I do this, but I'm going to think about pulling it up, but I decided not to. So maybe I just thought that in my head. I thought I was going to try to pull it up, but my memory is not accurate for that. But I do like how you can at least see the bows on the one yellow banner over there by the "Hello There" embellishment cluster that I made. Now, Carmen, who is one of my tiaras over on Patreon, she sent me a little package of doilies from Stampin' Up. They're in silver and in gold, and I grabbed a silver one, and my thinking behind grabbing the silver one was that it would look good with the black and white accents on this page. However, the more I think about it, the more I think it really should be a gold doily that I used, especially since I have the exact same doily in gold. I said goalie, didn't I? Anyhow, I'm going to think about that, and I'm looking at the fact that there's a lot of other gold accents in this collection that I'm probably going to want to use. And so the silver doily is not sitting well with me. So I'm going to pull it off, and I'm going to try my best to keep it intact. And it got a little wrinkly, but it's okay. I think I can use it again. I don't want to waste these pretty little doilies. So I'm just going to try to place the gold one exactly where the silver one was. I like how that looks. They come in this cute little package. They're cute. And I like that a little bit better because it kind of, I guess it pulls in the gold that is in the glitter on the carousel chipboard die cut. And I'm also going to use a few other gold accents on this page. Not too many, but a few. So I love how these banners look right on the sticker sheet, all stacked up like that. So I'm going to place them right here. And normally I wouldn't place something so busy on top of such a busy patterned paper, but because they have these really thick, dark black lines on them, and that combined with the fact that there's a lot of white around the phrases, I think it works. Here's one of those gold accents I'm adding. There was a little package of stickers that came with some little gold sequins. And so I'm going to use 2 gold sequins, one over here right above Hello Love, and then one down by the N, almost like a period by the N. And those little banners that I place, they're puffy sticker banners. They say, "Oh, happy day, celebrate this was magical, and happy moments." So to glue those little star sequins on, I just used some Tombow Mono multi-adhesive, which is my favorite adhesive for gluing non-paper to paper. It's nice and strong and lasts a good long time. I'm having a look at these flat stickers from the kit and thinking about whether I want to add any of those to this page. And at this point, I can't really think of anything else that I want to do, so I'm going to go ahead and do my journaling now. I'm looking for a pen, and I grabbed my Sharpie pen, which is different than a Sharpie marker. So the Sharpie marker is a permanent marker, and it is good for using on slick surfaces, so it won't smudge or smear on if you were writing on a kind of like a shiny sticker surface or anything plastic or glass. However, when you use a Sharpie marker to mark on paper, on porous paper, it tends to bleed quite a lot. And so what begins as a thin line becomes a thick line, and your journaling can look a little blobby if you use a Sharpie marker. So the Sharpie pen is different in that it is not permanent, and so it doesn't bleed when you write on porous paper. Now, these are some vellum. They're not really vellum, but they're sort of like really, really thin paper stickers from Studio Calico that Stephanie had brought with her to my house. She's scrapbooking over to my right. And we were kind of laughing at this phrase that says, "You start a dance party in my heart." We thought that some of the phrases on that sticker set were kind of funny, and she challenged me to use that, and I said I'll use it. So I just put it on this layout right there. I think it's silly, and it adds a fun touch to this page. My journaling says, "Who knew how much fun we'd have on the pretty little carousel in the woods? The girls had a blast choosing their horses and riding round and round." And I do actually run out of space there, so I just put round and round underneath and added an extra little line there with my ruler. I like how this page looks. I felt like I wanted to move that sticker over a little bit. It comes off pretty easily, although it does get all kind of curled up when you pull it off. I just didn't want it to be so centered looking, and I'm going to put a couple of other embellishments around here too. You'll see me play around with a couple of different things, and sometimes I try things even if I don't think it's going to necessarily look good in a place, because sometimes it surprises you what looks good where, and if you don't take that risk and just give it a try, you'll never know. So I always just take my time and try out lots of different things. If I think it might work, I'll give it a try. And this is one of those things that I didn't really think it would work, but once I put it there, I really liked it. So I like that little number strip, and you can still see that it's a number strip, but you can't really see all of the numbers. Now that's just introducing something too different, like the purples and the pattern of that frame is just not going to work. I do like the idea of putting a frame there, but but not that one, and not anyone, because I'm not going to end up going back to that idea after all. Having one last look at the chipboard stickers and the regular stickers, and I do have to put these last couple of die cuts in place, like I have to glue them down. So I'm going to, this is what I do with banners a lot of the times, is I put ATG in the center and then I put a little bit of foam adhesive on either end, and that just helps the banner pop out on the two ends. And there's more of that gold glitter that I was pretty sure I'd be using on this page, and so that again makes me even more happy that I took the time to switch that silver doily for a gold one. I don't know what I was thinking with the silver doily. I know what I was thinking. I was thinking black and white and silver look nice together. That's probably what I was thinking. So I'm having one more look at the chipboard stickers. Oh my goodness, I've had to start and stop this narration so many times because my cat is driving me crazy. She keeps knocking things over and making big loud noises that I have to then go back and edit out. So I'm sorry if this one sounds choppy. I'll try my best to not make it obvious where I had to edit it. Whew, boy, I hope that she's done. We've got one more survey of what's here to work with, and I just feel like it needs something else, and I don't know what. So I'm looking and I'm thinking maybe those wood buttons with the epoxy stickers in them. And then I grab these pom-poms. The pom-poms came in the kit. They're part of the Maggie Holmes collection. And I thought I would just maybe use them like sprinkles, because I was thinking, am I going to splatter some mist on this? I don't really do that these days. And there's no reason not to, but I don't know. I've been out of that. So one thing that I thought was maybe instead of sprinkling splatters, I could just sprinkle some pom-poms, but no, I'm not really liking that. What I'm going to do is actually sit and think about that. I'm in no rush to make a decision on this particular item and whether it's going to stay or go, but after looking at it for a little bit, I decided to add just one pom-pom in 3 different places and use the 2 different shades of pink. And I like that because I really liked the one down beside the Hello Love, that little black scallopy shape. And I really liked one on the heart. And then I felt like I didn't want to just use 2, so I added the 3rd one just to have a 3rd one. So here you see my rounded corner stitching, which gives it a nice casual look. We'll pretend that it happened on purpose. And all of the contrast on this page, it's so pretty. I love the carousel collection from Maggie Holmes. It's so pretty, especially to use with these photos I have of this old-fashioned amusement park that we have. So thank you so much for watching this video. Please be patient with me as I try to find the optimal settings on my videos. If you have any feedback for me, I feel like this one was a little bit too bright. My camera does some auto exposure adjustment when the cat is present and when my hands are present versus when my hands aren't present. That ends up making it look a little overexposed sometimes. And I don't know, it's not quite perfect. I am going to tweak it a little bit, and it'll probably take me a while to figure out the optimal settings. I know it did last time, and I just can't remember what I did. It was a combination of settings that I preset in my software as well as in my camera. So we'll find it eventually. Thanks so much for watching, and have a really great scrappy week. Check out my Facebook group if you're interested in chatting and participating in our 27-day challenge. Take care. Have a great week.